appreciate it. Hopefully I don't bore you too much. By show of hands, how many of you have failed to execute on a goal due to factors such as a lack of experience or indecision because of uncertainty? Pretty much everybody? Good. Hi, my name is Austin McCullough, and I'm the founder of The Personal Investment. The Personal Investment aims to help young business professionals eliminate indecision and execute towards their goals using a combination of their previous journaling data and artificial intelligence. Over the past 2 months, I've completed 99 customer discovery interviews. Throughout that time, I've really noticed a recurring problem for these young individuals. Some of the main problems that they have is that they have little or no experience, they have indecision from way too many options, and while 77% of them actually do not struggle to find general mentors, they do struggle to find specific guidance moving forward. Also, another statistic that really stood out to me is that out of everybody who I asked, only 23% document their progress, and yet 83% think that they should. Of those who don't, a main reason why they don't is because they simply have never thought to do it before, or they just don't know how. You know, it's not like stepping on a scale, writing down your weight. They don't think it's that simple. So, the solution is to use personal data from their past to guide them going forward. You know, it's great to have mentors, but nobody knows you as well as you know yourself. So why not leverage your own data that's specific to you to help guide you forward? For the past 650 days, I've been documenting my progress every single day in a simple Excel spreadsheet. I've been jotting down what works, what doesn't work, and I've also had a quantitative aspect to it as well. So scoring myself on a scale of -10 to +10. This has helped me in 3 main areas: self-awareness, accountability, and decreasing volatility. If you're able to improve all 3 areas of your life in these aspects, this makes you much more valuable to business associates and future employers or current employers. So our target market, at least initially to start off, is young single males with an interest in business. The reason why we have this oriented this way is because of the 78% of individuals who like this idea a lot, 84% were men and 67% were female. And so while that's pretty substantial and it's good for both sides of the equation, we want to start with one specific market first. Also, this is actually oriented around hard workers because they're always looking for the edge. You know, someone who's naturally intelligent, things come to them a little bit easier, so they're not trying to find that little edge to push them forward. Lastly, this is for individuals who don't necessarily come from a wealthy or super successful upbringing. You know, it's awesome that your parents or whoever helped raise you cares a lot about you and they're very helpful for you, but that doesn't mean that they're able to give you the proper guidance going forward. You know, if someone is a mechanic, they might not be able to go tell you how to be a good investment banker. So for our market size, in 2016, the US self-improvement market was $10 billion roughly, and of that, the self-improvement market for applications was $1 billion. I'm still trying to refine exactly what the target market is, but of course it's still a pretty lucrative industry to get into. So for differentiation, what really separates us is that this has a huge emphasis on execution rather than emotion, such as other applications focus on. Another aspect that we're going to use as framework is the book Think and Grow Rich. The author Napoleon Hill went out and interviewed many, many successful individuals, and by successful I mean Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, the best of the best, and he distilled it down to 13 success principles that helped them get to where they were. So I want to use that as the framework to help guide people forward in our study. Also, good question, who knows what a psychometrician is? Not many people. Okay, so in short, what they do is they validate data. So, you know, there's a reason why your score for an SAT or ACT score is held to such a high standard when it's just a number. It's because psychometricians use statistics to validate this data. Out of the 78% that really like this idea, they liked it given that the technology works. So we'll be working with psychometricians from ACT, which is headquartered here in Iowa City, to help us validate our data. So for traction, like I already talked about, 78% like the idea, and out of everyone asked, 93% are willing to participate in a study, which will really help us gather information. Actually, later today, I'm working with meeting with business analytics professor Nick Street from the University of Iowa to get into contact with some programmers and how to go forward on our study. And then I also plan to partner with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Once again, Napoleon Hill is the author of Think and Grow Rich, and then also social media influencers, or not social media influencers, self-improvement influencers such as Ed Mylett or Tony Robbins. touch on that later if we need to. Lastly, as you can see, I'm the president and the founder. I graduated from the University of Iowa this past May. I have over a year of successful startup experience. And then we have three main advisors. Thomas Hornbeck, graduated from the University of Iowa with a PhD in computer science. Thomas is also a proven successful technology entrepreneur and is experienced as far as artificial intelligence goes. Also, Jacqueline Crane has worked in international markets for ACT, and so she has connections at ACT to really help us get in contact with the right psychometricians. And then Paul Demersky, who has actually been an advisor of mine for a period of time, and he's the type of individual who tells me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear, which is very important for an optimistic young entrepreneur. Thank you for coming out, and I'm really excited to see what the personal investment can do for individuals. I think as humans, we're really capable of tremendous things, but we aren't always self-aware of that, and so I think the personal investment can be a great tool to help individuals achieve this. Thank you. Yeah?
Nelson, can you tell me a little bit about how people actually document and interact with the technology?
Absolutely. So we are going to begin the study. I'll go to the slide first. So currently what I've been doing is sending people out the template that I've been using. So they can jot down their notes for the day, today's accomplishments, what worked today, what didn't work, and also grading themselves on if they worked closer to or further from their big goal that they have set. Eventually, when I have this application set out or built out, I want to help individuals actually set goals, because a lot of the time you don't know what to strive for if you don't even have any goals set. So that's something that I don't completely have the answer to, but for now, I'm having people start with a minimum viable product, the MVP, which is just a simple Excel spreadsheet, which is what I've been using. Yeah.
So I think this is tremendous work. It is very important to see the past and acknowledge your experience and your accomplishments as you move forward with shifts, even the way that our brain processes the way things do.
Yeah.
My question is around, you mentioned, Napoleon Hill, and you mentioned this big goal, and Napoleon Hill's, one of his major points is the fact that you have to have a personal vision. And this personal vision has to also be merged with intuition as you move forward, because it's something that completely is fluid. How are you going to perhaps incorporate, or if you're going to incorporate, that into the personal investment?
This might not be the best specific answer, but I'll try to answer that as well as I can. I always say, let's kind of reverse engineer fulfillment. A lot of the time people want fulfillment. In order to have that, you need to know your purpose or your passions. In order to know your purpose or your passions, you need to be self-aware. And I firmly believe, especially for young individuals, even myself at times, a lot of the time, we're not as self-aware as we should be. And so if you're not self-aware, you don't know what direction to go. And even like I said, that was one of the three main aspects of this, has helped me with the self-awareness. So just reflecting on it. And through this customer discovery, I've noticed that a lot of individuals rely simply on their own memory. And that's why I like this picture a lot, is if you can see this, this is a huge paragraph, but on the grand scheme of things, that's just a small bit of information. And this entire screenshot is just half my customer discovery from 99 individuals. So people are relying on their brain because they think that their brains are doing them justice, but there's a lot that's slipping through the cracks. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Kind of.
Kind of?
Yeah,
I'm still trying to...
Just because of the fact that I'm wondering how it's very challenging to measure intuition and measure personal, and have personal vision and align basically metrics to those things. So maybe something to consider moving forward is, how are you going to measure for intuition, which is a great component of self-awareness for that to track as well.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point. Thank you. Yeah?
Out of the 99 people that you surveyed, what was the ratio between men and women? Was it equal? Or?
No. And that's actually another thing, is I'm going to meet with one of the University of Iowa clubs so I can get more women to interview as well. It's been about 75% men.
Because that's why I'm wondering if the ratios, you're like, oh, men are more interested, but if you had less women, I feel like women are more of the journaling type to begin with. So I was wondering about that. So second question, the end goal is to do like an app, or do you always?
Yes. An application.
Cool.
Whether that be people journaling or answering questions or even speaking into the phone, because we have the technology that they're able to do that can pick up on their words and also maybe even facial expression to see their mood as well. But that's also things that we can look into when I'm especially meeting with the professor. Good question though. Yeah.
When you were clicking through your slides there, I saw one that said pricing model. Please talk about
Pricing model, yeah. That's the most undeveloped aspect so far, but we can talk on it a little bit. So I know for sure that there would need to be a free trial for this. This is something, and the reason why I say the 2190 rule, what is it? It takes 21 days to create a habit, but 90 days to create a lifestyle. And so this is something that this is a long-term bet for people. You know, self-improvement doesn't just come over a week or two. And so odds are we'll do 2 or 3 months of a free trial. And then after that, I'm thinking this would be anywhere at the price range of $5 to $10 per month. You know, I think this is something that testimonials would be huge. People need to see that this is beneficial. But then once people are able to see that, then they'd be more than happy to pay that amount. Because if this can take you from making $50,000 per year to $150,000 per year, I think $5 or $10 per month in 6 years, would that be $120 per year? Would be well worth it.
And then follow up to that, what's
Yeah.
the competition?
The competition focuses more on mood. So there are a lot of journaling applications out there, but none that's doing specifically the way that we are. By taking, that's especially why I want to partner with Think and Grow Rich, is because that was a study that in its day was very advanced. It was, I mean, it's not every day you're talking to Thomas Edison and Henry Ford in order to pick their brain a little bit. But does that answer your question? Sorry, I know it wasn't the best answer. Yeah, yeah.
How do you plan to approach user engagement? Because obviously for them to realize that benefit, and
Yes.
again, that 21 days, you know, I think a lot of stuff like this, there's people who take a much more personalized approach where it's, you know, more life coaching, professional development,
Yes.
whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
How do you plan to make sure that people are actually using the thing for that free trial period so that they will come back?
So 2 ways to kind of answer that question. Good question, by the way. First, I think testimonials will help a lot. Getting individuals currently using it, but of course then that goes back to what you were just talking about. Also partnering with companies that are in the business of just collecting data. Because what I want to do is I want to build up the big brain for the artificial intelligence and then have almost each arm for each individual. Because at the beginning, of course, I have 650 days of data on myself, but not every single person journals. So when they start, there's not specific information right there. But of course, over time, as they do it more and more and more, the AI will learn about them specifically and say, oh, for Austin this works, but for Bob something else works. And so it'll have different suggestions. But at the beginning, right there, like I said, having data already in the database to give them insights to help them right from the beginning. That's at least what I'm thinking about it right now.
I guess, maybe then I'll phrase it as advice that, like, I think you want something much more tactical to physically make them do it, right?
Sure.
You know, like, I think that if it's a question of an app, push notifications and whatever, but I guess my advice then would be benchmarking against the average user. That average user.
Sure.
Maybe it's you
Yeah,
know, to
yeah.
start, but, you know, at this point, so-and-so has typically done X, you know, we realize the best success with this if you do, you know, X, Y, and Z
Yes.
every day. Because, like, otherwise, I guess, literally using the thing and
Yes.
entering the data seems like the part that most people, myself included, might be the laziest.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. That's a really good point. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
So, to go off of the point, is that as a coach, I would say people are most willing to do things if they're competing against themselves.
Mhm.
So adding a component of like a daily thing that says, you know, how have I grown today?
Yeah.
Instead of like what outside of, on top of what worked and what did not work, then you can reference it back and say, grew this much this day
Yeah.
on this process towards this goal. And now this is your progress towards what's missing. And
Oh,
that making them come back because they're like, oh, I'm making progress, I'm making progress. Because against other people, like the process, as you know,
Yeah.
is not, it's very not the same.
Right, and that's actually my favorite part about how you see, let's find that picture. That's why I like the quantitative aspect to it as well, is because that's actually been my growth over time. And it's really cool actually because it keeps you in check. So of course I grade myself on a scale of -10 to +10. And so me being the hardworking person who I think I am, I would have thought maybe the average score would be like a 6 to 8. My average score was only 2.2. So that really shows, I mean, if 10's the best, and I'm only getting a 2.2, that shows how much more room for growth we have. And also, compound interest is in everything in life. It's not just in finance. And so it's also, if you're compounding every single day at 2.2, and everybody else is 1 and 1 and 1, even at the end of the year, you're going to be much further ahead. But you're right, that's why I like that the most, is you can actually see it. Even for days where you're kind of down in the dumps and you feel like you're not on top of it, you feel stupid, a little bit foggy, you can reflect back and say, wow, I've really made that much growth. And it's tangible. But of course, with that, that's with me grading myself. And that's why a lot of people like the AI aspect. It takes out the emotions and the biases, and it's more consistent. So, you know, that score would be a little bit more authentic. Good point, good point. Anybody else?
So I'd like to hear about your journey. So you
Yeah.
presented here a few months ago with a different project.
Yeah.
Is this a pivot of that, or is this just a brand new?
This is something, it's a brand new idea. Actually, it's funny because this came about first.
Okay.
This was, like I said, I was reading Think and Grow Rich, and I just stopped at the end of a chapter, stopping point, and it just popped into my mind. I was like, you know, why do we put this big emphasis on financial investments, but we don't put the biggest emphasis on investing in yourself? And so I just started to track my own progress. This is something truly I'm much more passionate about. I don't know a single person who's more passionate about self-improvement because, like I said, we're capable of tremendous things. We really are. And so it's just something where I want to show people that a little bit more, and I think this is a tool that could really help people with that. Anybody?
If there are no other questions, I guess I'll ask my final question. What can we do as a community to help?
So the big point, thank you for asking that question. I am not a technology savvy individual, even for millennial. Actually, I think I'm in the group below that. You might think that I should be, but if any of you know any programmers, I'm definitely not opposed to having a founder who has a computer science background. But from working on a previous startup, I've seen that you want to make sure that you mesh well with the founder. So that doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to just take somebody along no matter what if that's just their major. But somebody who knows programming, anybody who knows psychometrics would be beneficial. Yeah, that's what I think would be really helpful for now.
I guess moving on to programming, are we talking about like building the app itself, or machine learning, or
Both. Yeah.
this-
Right. I know, but that's right. Yes, both of those areas.
Excellent. All right. We want